Hi, Amari Saludum here, and today we are going to give you 5 tips on how you can lose weight in a healthy way. Weight loss and just having to lose weight can definitely have a huge impact not only on a person's physical health but also on their mental health.
So, tip number 1, time-restricted eating. So, time-restricted eating is a form of intermittent fasting. In simplistic terms, is picking a period of time in which to eat our food in most of our meals. So what I recommend to my patients is the 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. period of time-restricted eating, and only eating food between that time period. And then from the remainder of the time, from 7 p.m. until 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. the next morning, only drinking water. So the reason in the science behind why this can help improve health and also lose weight is because it follows the body's natural circadian rhythm, or the internal biological clock, in which hormones are released and produced, and the different metabolic functions of the body, the different processes that the body undergoes, is better aligned during this time period. Specifically, the pancreas, which is the organ that releases insulin. And insulin is a hormone that has many important functions, and one of which is to absorb the sugar from the blood and get it into the cells so that the cells can use it for energy. Basically, insulin is the key that unlocks the door that allows sugar to enter cells in the body to be used for energy and the normal processes that they undergo. I myself, personally recommend this to patients, but I will, have a medical disclaimer here. This is not medical advice specific to you out there right now. I would want you to consult with your primary doctor, your physician, your healthcare professional before implementing anything like this, because if you do have any medical conditions like diabetes or take medications that affect blood sugar, using this method of time-restricted eating can lower your blood sugar and therefore put you at risk of hypoglycemia, which could potentially be life-threatening, cause death, seizures. So if you are going to try this at home, I would recommend consulting a physician, a doctor, your primary care provider before you undertake this time-restricted feeding method. There are other forms of intermittent fasting, like alternate day fasting, eating every other day, fasting for periods of 24 to 36 hours. There's also one meal a day, where you're only eating between a 1 to 2 hour period every day. The 10 to 7, the 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. time restricted feeding is probably one of the easier ones to maintain long term, and that's why I prefer it over the other ones. The other ones have shown benefits, especially in animal studies, which are believed to be able to translate to humans. So there is, evidence out there that does support that this fasting period does work. Fasting is also beneficial for other health reasons as well. It helps cleanse the body of bad or decaying, damaged cells in a process called autophagy, which leads to programmed cell death, something called apoptosis, which kills off the bad precancerous or cancerous cells and helps promote the healthy cells to regenerate, and helps promote stem cell regeneration as well. So fasting has many medical benefits.
Tip number 2 is to make sure that you're getting enough sleep as well as quality sleep. In a meta-analysis, it was found that children and adults who were sleep deprived, that would be about 7 hours of sleep or less, they actually had a higher correlation with obesity. So there's several reasons for that. You already talked a little bit about insulin resistance. So what happens when we're getting a lack of sleep is our insulin is not working as well, and insulin has to overcompensate for that. We have too much insulin that actually makes us hungrier, and we then have a tendency for the calories we are consuming to be stored as fat. So in addition, our hormones can get thrown out of whack when we're not getting enough sleep. Two important hormones with regards to weight loss are ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is the hormone that tells our brains that we are hungry. And then leptin is a hormone that tells our brains that we are full. If we're not sleeping properly, our bodies are not making enough of these two hormones, and then that can totally throw us out of whack in terms of eating when we think we're hungry, but we're really not. Not getting enough sleep can also lead to an increase in food temptation. So part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, that tells us to take a step back and think before we react. But when we're not getting proper amount of sleep, we can't do that as easily. So it's a lot easier when we're tired, we're groggy, to reach for those processed unhealthy foods, foods high in sugar. And when we eat those foods, a lot of times they're comfort foods for us. So we get those hits of dopamine, those feel-good neurotransmitters when we're eating them, and that's going to make us want to eat more and more. So what we see going on here is this whole cycle of not eating healthy and not getting enough sleep and leading to weight gain. So that's definitely important to breaking that cycle of weight gain, is to make sure that you're getting proper amounts of sleep as well as proper quality of sleep.
Tip number 3 is avoiding temptation. So that transitions pretty nicely from the tip that Amari just shared with us about how sleep really interferes with our ability to make good food choices. So some of those difficult areas are when we're at family functions, or going to a barbecue with friends, or in a social situation, maybe at work with coworkers, where there are unhealthier food options. And how do we get ourselves out of these situations? How do we make a healthy choice? A lot of these things go on without our real conscious awareness. We're not thinking about it. We see food and we eat it. And a lot of us, follow that seafood diet. If there's food in front of us, we're gonna eat it. And, but if we're aware that there's this unconscious or subconscious process going on where we're not, choosing the best food, and we can plan ahead and use our conscious mind, we can take back the executive control function of our brain, and we can start making better choices by trying to avoid these situations of temptation. So one way I recommend is to meal prep, and to bring meals if you're going to a situation where that I'm going to cousin Joe's house this weekend, and they always have fried food and greasy food, and we can bring our own food to that event. We can bring our own dish, or we can eat ahead of time. We can eat a healthier option so that we're less hungry at that point in time, and we're less likely to reach for the fried greasy foods, the chips, the baked goods, and we can eat healthier food options. Another way to avoid the temptation, or not even avoid it, is just completely give in to the temptation and decide that is the day that we're gonna treat ourselves. We're gonna back off on the restriction, and we're gonna eat unhealthy for this period of time, knowing that the rest of the week and for the future we're going to continue on our healthy lifestyle. But there will be a couple instances, a couple days where we can treat ourselves if it's a holiday, because any diet or any intervention that is too restrictive often is very hard to maintain long term. So like I said, like Amari and I are talking about, this is about living a healthy lifestyle and becoming healthier people with the added benefits of weight loss, if that is one of our specific goals. That is not the primary focus, because I think focusing too much on weight can be unhealthy. It can cause eating disorders, and obsessing over just a number is not the healthiest way to approach it. Being too restrictive can be harmful, can cause more stress and lead to less adherence in the long term. But if we know that for most of the time, at least 5 to 6 days out of the week, we're sticking to this lifestyle, this new healthy lifestyle, and then on 1 or 2 days, maybe on the weekend or holidays, we can be a little more flexible and less rigid and eat some of those less healthy foods, then we're more likely to stick to it in the long term. Eating the foods that we all, that we enjoy, but finding healthier alternatives and still eating those foods. Pizza, eating plant-based pizza with cauliflower crust or vegetable toppings or whole grain crust, making it into a healthier option and not sacrificing taste.
Okay, tip number 4 is to have a goal and keep some sort of journal on your weight loss journey. Goal setting can be really helpful because it can keep us focused on what we want to achieve, and it can also be a great way to measure our progress. I see a lot of clients that get frustrated when they're not meeting their goal right away. And I think it's because they're not seeing the small changes. What can really be helpful too is using the template of a SMART goal to set your goals. So I'm going to go through what each of those stand for. The S stands for specific. You want your goal to be specific, so again, it can be focused. So for example, if you have the goal of losing 20 pounds, that's not really a specific goal. 20 pounds, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be 20 pounds of fat. It might be 20 pounds of water, pounds of muscle. Not focusing too much on the numbers here, but I'm using this as an example. Maybe instead your goal, you want to be able to wake up and feel energized. You want to be able to handle stress a lot better. Maybe you want to be able to lift 50 pounds, whereas right now you can only lift 20 pounds. The M stands for measurable. How are you going to measure this goal? So I think this is where journaling can come in really handy. Every day, tracking your progress. How do you feel? The A stands for attainable. So is this goal attainable for you? So for example, is it attainable to lose 20 pounds of fat in 1 week? Probably not. For 1 pound of fat, in order to lose that is actually the equivalent of 3,500 calories, and calories is essentially a unit of energy that our body uses for fuel. If you put that into context, it's very difficult to have a deficit of 3,500 calories every single day. That's why you want your weight loss to be pretty attainable. And attainable meaning about 1 to 2 pounds of fat per week. It can definitely vary, so of course consult with your physician before starting on this weight loss journey to be able to see what is an appropriate amount of weight for you. So the R stands for relevant, and this is helpful to fuel your motivation for attaining your goal. So especially, in the beginning when we set our goals, a lot of times we're highly motivated, but then a few weeks goes in and we tend to drift off. Making sure that these goals are relevant to you, that in some way this is going to benefit your life, is going to help you more likely stay on track with it. Maybe this weight loss is going to help you be able to play with your kids or your grandkids easier, or maybe it's going to help you be able to work out more efficiently. So whatever that goal is, make sure that is relevant for you. The T stands for time bound. When do you want to actually achieve this goal? Make sure that it's realistic time frame for you. 20 pounds of fat, probably not attainable. You can't do that in a week. Maybe with consulting with your physician, you find that over a span of 4 to 5 months, that's a more appropriate time measure to reach your goal. So I found some really great worksheets online, and I'm going to put one in the description box that you can use. I highly recommend, when starting any sort of goal in your life, to take time to reflect and understand why this goal is so important to you, and you'll have a piece of paper that you can refer back to help motivate you throughout your journey. What I really like about this worksheet is on the back it has a place where you can put obstacles that you think might get in the way of your success, and then how you're going to be able to overcome those obstacles as well.
Tip number 5. So our last tip is getting the support from family and friends and loved ones in our lives. This can really help and benefit our ability to continue and to initiate and maintain our short-term goals and our long-term goals. Once you know what your goal is, sharing that and communicating this to the important people in your life, people that you live with, that you care about, your loved ones, family, friends, people you work with, co-workers. Having the support of all these people can really help us find the encouragement. It can really help us stick to our goal and to have that support that we may need to get through those hurdles in those difficult times when we feel like giving up. Help us remember that we're trying to lead healthier lives, to feel better about ourselves, to be the best people that we can be so we can help the people around us. And another thing too I want us to think about is that if we're trying to make these changes in our lives and we're at that point where we are entirely ready to do this and we want to make this effort, that we're not forcing other people around us to change themselves or to try to join in on this weight loss journey with us. Some people in our lives may not be ready. They may be inspired. They may see us making these changes and the benefits that we're having, by making these changes, but they may not be at a point in their journey where they are ready to initiate and start making these changes. Just focus on doing it for ourselves at first, and if other people want to join in and they want to talk to us and find out what we're doing, and we can share what we've learned, but at no point should we try to force anyone to do something that they're not ready to do in their life. So getting support from people in our lives, our loved ones, our family, our friends, people we work with, people we see on a regular daily basis, important people in our lives, letting them know what we're going through, sharing our experience, and not trying to force anyone to do what we're doing, but letting them know what's going on in our lives and getting support from them, and can really help us stay committed to this journey, to this transformation that we're making.
So those are our tips. Thank you for watching. If you've ever tried any of these tips, or if you have questions, please leave them in the comments below. You have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.